You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into STB Sports Take, Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham. Thank you for being here. Please hit that subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts, we are there. Hit the subscribe button, whichever of those platforms you are on. Also, you can check the description on any platform. I kind of break down the segments at which I hit. Today, I've got a ton to cover. It's actually a really, really fun podcast I've got lined up, so thank you for being here. Please share this with your friends. I love seeing the podcast grow. We got a good weekend coming up. We've got Game 5, a very pivotal, very important Game 5 of the NBA Finals tomorrow. We're going to start with the NBA, all sorts of NBA talk. We're not starting with the NBA Finals, though. We are starting with Damian Lillard. I've said this before. There's no way he stays in Portland very long, and now it is looking more and more likely that he will be requesting a trade. There were reports and rumors everywhere this morning. Just this morning this broke that Damian Lillard will be requesting a trade within the next couple of days, likely to the New York Knicks. So I'm not sure why the Knicks, other than the fact that it's in New York, big market, big money, stuff like that. I get it. They do have a lot of young talent, but they're not a team that's going to win a title or even compete for a title just by adding him. And so I'm a little confused that that's where he wants to go, because maybe he's got some master plan, if it's even true. Again, these are rumors. It seems like they're pretty credible because there's multiple people reporting it now. Yusuf Nurkic immediately took to Twitter to make fun of everybody reporting it. The reports are that the Knicks were going to give up 3 or 4 first-round picks for Dame. I think they'd have to give up some of their young talent as well. They have a ton of young talented players, but they have no superstars. Julius Randle is their best player. He led the team in points, assists, and rebounds, and he's barely an all-star. And he's their best guy. So they're not going to give him up. And if they did give him up, Dame would, they might win the first round of the playoffs, and that would be it. Dame's done that. Dame wants to compete for a title, so we think. And that's why I get confused why he'd want to go to the Knicks. Maybe he's got some master plan where he's already talked to other players, kind of like a Kawhi Leonard, Paul George thing, where they were clearly in cahoots to orchestrate that whole thing to the Clippers, or LeBron James getting Chris Bosh to go with him to join Dwayne Wade in Miami. Maybe there's something like that going on behind the scenes with Damian Lillard, but it does look very likely that he will not be a Portland Trailblazer. Again, it's rumors, but it's fun rumors. I like it. It's rumors that I expected. We all knew this was coming. So let this be a lesson. Let this be a life lesson for all of us, okay? Never paint yourself into a corner in life. Just don't do it. Especially when it comes down to something that requires another party to really be on the same page with you as, and if they're not, then it kind of ruins your entire plans. Don't paint yourself into a corner when it doesn't all depend on you, especially, right? So what I mean here is Damian Lillard has repeatedly talked about loyalty, and I want to stick in Portland, and I want to win a championship here. And I think those things were all true. The problem is he kind of set himself up for this massive letdown if he were to request a trade, because it's like, oh, what? You lied to us. You've been saying forever that you wanted to be here. He's like, well, yeah, I did, but I also want to win a championship, and now I'm like 12 years into my career and still don't have one. Like, I got to get out, or 10 years in, whatever he is. He's 31. So we knew this was coming. He wants to win a title. He's way too good to not be able to compete for a title. He's a top 10-ish player in the league. He's right around that, top 10 mark. Guys like that, they want to compete for titles. He's 31. He knows he's got like 4 or 5 seasons left of high caliber basketball. Maybe 3 or 4, honestly. He probably has 3 or 4 seasons left at like that really high level performance. And then you're going to start to see him taper quickly. Short guys, that's just how it goes. If your game is based off of explosiveness, quickness, athleticism, your game tapers off rapidly in your mid-30s. It just does. The taller guys can sometimes get away with lasting longer because they just have a natural advantage of being really tall that doesn't change with age. But these younger guys, these smaller guys like Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade was a guy that never really developed the greatest shot, and his game was so dependent on his explosiveness that as that started to fade at 35, it was a rapid decline from there. 33 even, it was a rapid decline from there. Because D-Wade's, 39, I think now? I think he's my age, 38 maybe. And he's been done for a couple years, and he was pretty bad his last 2 seasons. So, yeah, it was probably around like 33, 34. You saw a rapid decline with Dwayne Wade. So, not saying that's going to be the case for everybody, but I do think Dame probably only has 3 stellar seasons left. 3 seasons of like first or second team All-NBA, maybe 4. And then by season 5, 6, he'll still be in the league, I would guess. But at age 36, 37, 38, he'll be a shell of himself. And so he's got probably 3 or 4 really good chances left to win an NBA title at the caliber of player that he is now. So I don't blame him for wanting out. We knew this was coming. So he painted himself into a corner a little bit. KD did the same thing. He got out, and now he's Mr. Super Team everywhere he goes. Damian Lillard also apparently wants out. And it'll be interesting to see if he goes to the Knicks. So the Knicks, they have Julius Randle, Derrick Rose, RJ Barrett, Alec Burks, Elfrid Payton, Mitchell Robinson. I'm trying to think of all of them. I know I have it pulled up here somewhere. Oh, Emmanuel Quickly. Okay, I've got it pulled up here. Taj Gibson, Nerlens Noel, Kevin Knox, Obi Toppin. They have a pretty solid roster, actually. They really do. And they've got a great coach in Tom Thibodeau. So you got to think that they'd have to give up 1 or 2 of these young studs plus the picks to get him. We'll see if it happens. But I think he should look seriously at the Philadelphia 76ers, because there's now rumors been going around that the Sixers are shopping Ben Simmons. I'm sure the Blazers would be stoked to get Ben Simmons, because as much as I say he's overrated and he's not that great, really I don't say he's not that great, because he is great, but he is overrated. So, but he's better than anyone I just named on the Knicks roster. He's better than some future first-round picks where you don't know what the heck you're going to get. So why not do a little, hey, we'll give you Ben Simmons, you give us Damian Lillard. Obviously, the Sixers would have to give up more than just Simmons, but I'm sure they'd be willing to do it to get Damian Lillard. You partner Dame with Joel Embiid. Yikes. That would be a scary, scary duo. That would maybe be the best duo in the league. You've got LeBron. To me, it's LeBron and AD, but LeBron's aging. AD is always hurt, and so that one's kind of like, I don't know. And then, I mean, after that, there's a bunch of great duos, but after that, you'd have to say it would be Damian Lillard and Joel Embiid. You'd maybe even put them ahead as a duo. Obviously, you've got Durant and Harden, or Durant and Kyrie right there as well. But man, Dame and Joel Embiid would be scary. So there's talk of him going to the Warriors, Ben Simmons. There's talk of him going to the Thunder. I'm going to say, why not? If you're Portland and you're Philadelphia, why are you not on the phone talking to each other and being like, hey, this seems to work for both of us. We're in different conferences, so we don't have to play each other hardly at all. And we don't really care if we strengthen you that much, because as long as we're getting strengthened, it doesn't matter. So there's not like that weird, inner conference or inner division competition going on there. And they play the same position. They're both point guards. I don't know. Both guys, one guy they want to move out because he's not a good fit for Joel Embiid. The other guy wants out. And so it's like, to me, it just works. Just trade him straight across. Philadelphia would have to throw in a pick as well with it, I'm sure. Maybe even 2, because Dame's significantly better than Ben Simmons is. But Ben Simmons is younger. Maybe he's going to work on his shot and improve. There's still a lot of potential in Ben Simmons, even though he is currently overrated. Maybe this offseason changes things for him. Maybe this postseason was that turning point to where he's like, shoot, I can no longer just rely on my athleticism. I'm now a liability, and everybody knows. So I don't know. I would look at that. Okay, moving on. Kawhi Leonard, I mentioned how Kawhi had his player option, and maybe he'd stick, maybe he'd go because, he's in LA. I predicted, of course, that he would stay in LA because I think that his love for Los Angeles and living there outweighs anything else with him. And I think he knows he has a pretty good chance to win a title with the Clippers, especially with how Paul George exercised some demons in this postseason. Well, literally hours after I said that a couple days ago on the podcast, he, went and got surgery on his knee, partially torn, MCL or ACL? It was ACL, I think. And basically a partially torn ACL, the surgery is kind of the same. So he's out for 9 months. So Kawhi's obviously staying in Los Angeles. He's going to go ahead and collect some fat paychecks without playing. He won't be back until that puts him into February, March, before he's back. So he'll get back for just the latter end of the regular season and then the playoffs, which is kind of his ideal scenario anyway. But Kawhi obviously going to stay put in Los Angeles. So Clippers are going to run it back, and I think they have a good chance. I think had they stayed healthy, you'd probably see them in the finals instead of the Suns. That being said, the Suns are there, and they're probably going to win it. I did predict that Milwaukee would win that game. Actually, we're going to get into that, so I'll save that for just a little bit later. In fact, where did I put that? I've got all these notes, but there it is. I need to move this up in the rundown. But anyway, let's just do that right now. So I said that the Bucks would take Game 4, and they did. I was actually in Arizona, which is why I didn't do a podcast the last couple days. I'm thinking of moving there. Maybe comment below if you think I should or shouldn't. But I watched the game with a bunch of local Arizonians, Phoenixonians, whatever they're called, Phoenix locals. And I was actually rooting for the Bucks to win Game 4 because A, I predicted it with you guys here, and B, I just want to see a good series. I've told you a million times, I'll say it again, 1,000,001. I'm a fan of the sport first. So obviously I want to see Game 6, Game 7. Those are fun, exciting times. So I was rooting for the Bucks to win Game 4 because I knew that if they lost, it would probably be over in 5. So Bucks win Game 4. I'm sticking with my prediction for Suns in 7. I was correct on the Bucks winning that Game 4, and we'll see what happens. I have to mention, I know this is kind of yesterday's news a little bit, but Devin Booker had 5 fouls. His 5th foul was so stupid. Has to sit out for like several minutes and comes back in and gets the most, this might have been the most egregious, blatant, obvious foul, no call in the history of the NBA Finals, maybe in the history of the NBA period. Devin Booker literally wraps a guy up, okay? He's hacking him on the arm with one hand, with his left hand, wrapping him up, hugging him with his right on a fast break, clearly purposely trying to draw a foul to send him to the line, and they don't call it. It was one of those where you're like, oh no, don't give the conspiracy theorists so much ammo. This looks horrible. Devin Booker doesn't get his 6th foul call. It was so obvious that the ref was just like, oh shoot, he's the superstar on this court. Like, I can't foul him out. He's the second best player on the whole court, behind Giannis. And I've been listening to this podcast called Whistleblower, and it's all about the conspiracies of the fixing of games or the influencing of games by referees back in like the early 2000s. Tim Donaghy being like the main guilty party of that, where basically they would say, we're going to do just enough to kind of like fudge with the line a little bit. We're going to make sure that if the team's favored by 4, they win by at least 4. They claim to have not done a whole lot to impact the overall outcome of who won or lost, but just making sure the line or the spread was covered. And I'm watching that. I'm watching Devin Booker purposely foul a guy, like purposely fouling him, and it not get called, knowing that would be his 6th foul, and he'd be fouled out in an NBA Finals game as the superstar for his team. The NBA better be thanking their lucky stars that the Suns lost that game anyway, because if they had won and Booker had been critical in making that win happen down the stretch after that blatant 6th foul that was not called, they would have lost a lot of fans, because they would have been like, you know what, this whole thing's fixed. I don't care anymore, So that was interesting, but okay, so that was all I really have about the finals. Game 5's tomorrow. I'm probably going to be back down in Phoenix, debating even going to it. That might be kind of fun. I don't know how much tickets are. I haven't even looked, but debating going back down to Phoenix for the weekend just to kind of scope things out again. But okay, back up. Sorry, I've got this rundown on this screen, and that was one that I had forgotten to move up into the NBA section. So Bradley Beal and Kevin Love are out for the Olympics. To me, this is not a big deal at all. I think you actually can get 2 upgrades there anyway with Trae Young and Zion Williamson. Trae Young is phenomenal shooter, phenomenal passer, phenomenal competitor. We just watched him do some serious damage in the playoffs that nobody saw coming, nobody expected. The guy's been overlooked and overshadowed by others his whole career, really. I mean, he does get plenty of love, and he's been an all-star and things like that, but he wasn't this year. So I would predict and suggest that Trae Young replace Bradley Beal. Donovan Mitchell has already declined an invitation, so he's not an option. He would be my first choice, of course. But I think Trae Young should take his spot, Bradley Beal's spot. And Kevin Love, I love the guy, no pun intended, but he shouldn't have been on the team in the first place. He just withdrew. So Bradley Beal had some COVID issues or some health and safety protocols where he had to withdraw. So he will not be going to Tokyo. And Kevin Love is not going to Tokyo just because he's withdrawn, saying he's still trying to recover from his calf injury. He's not quite 100%, and you need to be more 100% to compete at the Olympic level. So he is withdrawing, and Zion Williamson is already the better player than Kevin Love. Like, hands down the better player. It's not even close. Kevin Love's had the better career, but he's just had a longer career. Zion Williamson is in second, third year. So you got to just finish the second year. So you got to give it to Zion Williamson. I would say Julius Randle would be right after Zion, but I really, really hope to see Zion Williamson wearing that Team USA jersey in Tokyo because the guy is an absolute monster. He brings athleticism that Kevin Love absolutely does not bring. I think he's a better fit for this squad. The Team USA has to go win the gold medal. The roster is good. It's not great. I mean, if you look down the roster, there's some names on here where you're like, what? Like Jeremy Grant? Jeremy Grant's like, really? Drew Holiday, Draymond Green, Kevin Love. It's just not that spectacular. Bam Adebayo. It's just not that spectacular of a roster when you think of like the NBA greats. We forget how many of them are foreign. And then a lot of guys have just declined invites, or they're dealing with injuries. Like you don't see Paul George on here. You don't see Kawhi Leonard because of injury. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Donovan Mitchell. There's so many guys that are better as USA contenders. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, like the list goes on and on. I mean, you could field a whole squad of USA invite declines that would be better than the current roster. You could almost field an entire team of guys that would beat this team that have declined invitations, Donovan Mitchell. So I hope to see Zion Williamson and Trae Young replace Bradley Beal and Kevin Love. And I think Team USA wins gold. I'm looking forward to the Olympics. I'll be talking about the Olympics quite a bit here on the podcast. It'll be fun. Okay, moving over to Major League Baseball, which I do not talk about much. I will when the playoffs get started. I actually really like baseball. Obviously, basketball and football are my first and second loves, or first and first loves. It depends on what season it is. If it's football season, football is my favorite sport. If it's basketball season, basketball is my favorite sport. Baseball I like, though, when it comes time to the playoffs. Playoffs are really cool, really fun. But I got to mention, Shohei Ohtani is an absolute beast, and he's finally getting some recognition from everybody, including myself, now that the All-Star break is here, and we watched him hit bombs almost out of the entire stadium in the Home Run Derby. The guy is leading all of Major League Baseball, not just the American League, leading all of Major League Baseball in home runs. He's third in all of Major League Baseball in RBIs. So he's a designated hitter for the Angels, but he's also started 13 games at pitcher for the Angels. He's just got a 4-1 record, so he's had a lot of no decisions, but only one loss, 4 wins, ERA of 3.49, 87 strikeouts to just 35 walks. The guy's a beast. The Angels just aren't that great. They're fourth in the AL West. They are a game above 500, so that's something. They're in contention to kind of try and get a playoff spot still, but fourth in their own division out of just 5 teams, obviously. So they're not that great, but this guy's an absolute monster. And it's funny, and I've heard this mentioned by others, and so I am parodying a little bit, but not really because this is my own thought as well. But all growing up, the best athletes were great hitters and great pitchers. So I just don't know why that's not the case ever in Major League Baseball. Like, why does every position hit except the pitcher? When all growing up, those guys were monsters at hitting. They were, most of them anyway, because that's just how it works. The best athlete usually can throw the ball really well and can hit the ball really well. So Shohei Ohtani has been doing that in Japan. He's now doing it in the United States in the majors, and it's freaking amazing to watch. The guy started at pitcher in Major League, and he in the All-Star game, and he also batted leadoff. The guy is an absolute monster. He's only 26 or 27. Best, most exciting player in baseball is Shohei Ohtani. It's actually remarkable to watch him play, to watch him pitch the way he pitches and then go hit the way he hits. And if you've watched his stance, he doesn't pick up his front leg. So his lead leg when swinging, he doesn't even pick it up. He kind of goes back into this like twisted, stance where he straightens his leg and points his toe. And then when he swings through, he just shifts his weight to the front without picking up his leg. Like a lot of guys will pick up their leg and use that to kind of momentum forward. He doesn't. He kind of goes up on his toe a little bit and then just comes back down on it. And he just blasts the ball. Blasts it. So very fun to watch. Babe Ruth is the last guy that really did this. Obviously, myself and everybody listening was not alive during that time. But Babe Ruth did it kind of in reverse, where he was like a fantastic pitcher, and then they started hitting home runs, and then they shifted him to just a hitter. He never really did both at the same time. Shohei Ohtani is doing both at the same time. It's very, very intriguing, and I think it's an anomaly. I think you'll not see much of this, but I would like to see more of it, because there's more guys out there capable of doing both really well. Maybe not at this level, because this is like next level, but very exciting to watch. Okay, couple more things. Like I say, a lot of topics today. So we did NBA. We just did Major League Baseball. Now we're going to shift over to UFC McGregor. I got to mention just a couple things real quick. He is claiming that his leg was fractured the entire time. He had multiple fractures in his leg going into the fight. It says Dana White knew it. It says the doctors knew it. It says UFC knew it. And he had ankle problems, and now he's got a titanium leg, shin bone, as he says. Titanium shin bone that can't break, and he's just going to beat everybody up with it, So I don't know if I buy it. I do think McGregor is done, and it pains me to say that, because I actually like the guy so much, but he just keeps losing. Jake Paul went on, what was it? It was Undisputed with Skip and Shannon, and says, I don't fight losers, and he just keeps losing, so I don't know if I even want to fight him. Obviously, he's just talking that talk to try and drive ratings. You're probably going to eventually see Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor, and that would be very, very interesting, because it would be a boxing match. But I would love to see McGregor come back somehow, some way, and be a good UFC fighter again. I just don't know that I see it happening. I don't know that we ever see Conor McGregor at the level to compete for a championship belt, a title belt in UFC ever again. He's kind of been exposed, and he just doesn't look that great. And now, again, he's at least a year out before he can fight again, I would think. At least a year. At least 9 months, we'll say. Probably a year. That's probably the better way to put it. So, okay. Tom Brady, speaking of injuries, pre-existing injuries. Tom Brady apparently had a torn MCL for the entirety of last season. I also don't know if I buy this. This is just weird stuff. A torn MCL for the entire season. Now he just had surgery on it, but apparently he'll be fine. Within the next few weeks for training camps. I don't know what's going on there, but the guy's a beast either way. He's the GOAT either way. Just wanted to make mention of that. Again, if that's the case, why repair it this late? If you just won a Super Bowl on a torn MCL, just played an entire season on it. Because there is that thing, you do hear with those ligaments, you can actually go without them. I think a lot of people think that, if you tear your MCL or your ACL, you can't even walk. Well, actually, no, you're fine. You can walk around. It's lateral movement that really crushes you. Obviously, Tom Brady doesn't move a whole lot. He kind of just stands and throws. But he does move. He's got his drop back. I mean, even your drop back, involves those ligaments. Scrambling, of course, involves those ligaments. Planting, twisting, and throwing, I think, could involve those ligaments. So if it was torn for the entire last season, there's now a year and a half's worth of scar tissue and strength built up around it. Why cut it open and fix it if it really was that way? I don't know. So I don't know. That's kind of an interesting one. I just wanted to make mention of. Sticking in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers and the Packer drama continues. And I did a podcast about how I thought that the Packers should trade him. I thought they should trade him. And I stand by that. And here's the thing. And I want to know what you would do. Feel free to comment if you're on YouTube, shoot me a tweet, whatever. You can go in the link in any description on any platform. There's actually a spot where you can go record an entire take, and it'll I can get the audio and actually put it into the podcast. So feel free to do that. I've had several people do that in the past. It's kind of fun. But I want to know what you would do. Would you trade Aaron Rodgers or would you not? Because obviously he gives you a better chance to win a Super Bowl over the next 2 or 3 years than Jordan Love does. I think we can all agree on that. But he's had however many years to do it, and he's gotten you to one. He's underachieved multiple times where expectations were here and output was down here, a little bit lower, right, than the expectation. So he's been given chance after chance after chance after chance, and while he is a superstar, while he is one of the top quarterbacks in the league still to this day, he's kind of proven that he won't get you there. But he gives you a better chance than the guy that would replace him, and one Super Bowl win is better than 10 years of making the playoffs without a Super Bowl win. most would agree. Maybe not everybody. From a financial standpoint, it actually might not be. Making the making the playoffs year after year after year is probably better financially. It's for sure better financially than missing the playoffs 9 years but winning the Super Bowl 1. You got to think those 10 playoff runs would be more money for an owner, for ticket sales and obviously TV rights and things like that. You got to think it would be better financially to continue making the playoffs. But overall, that one Super Bowl is usually worth a lot more to teams than playoff appearances, right? And Aaron Rodgers gives you that better chance. So I get that. But you drafted Jordan Love very high. You moved up in the first round to get him very high. So you gave up things to move up in the draft to draft him very high. So you compounded your love for him. You compounded your confidence in him by not just drafting him high when you already had Aaron Rodgers, but trading things away to move up to get him while you already had Aaron Rodgers. So you were either wrong then or you're wrong now, but you can't have been right then by moving up to get him and also be right now by not playing him, especially when your star guy wants out and you could get so much in return for him. Aaron Rodgers' value is still sky high. Sky high. So if his value is sky high and you don't feel super confident he's going to get you a Super Bowl because he just hasn't for so many years, last time they won, the only time they won was in 2010 with him, that's ancient history at this point. I get that he gives you a better chance right now than Jordan Love does, but if you moved up to get Love, there must have been a reason for it. Use him. Get everything you can. Get a king's ransom for Aaron Rodgers. Make somebody just sell the farm to get him for the next 3 years, right? And you take all of that, those draft picks, solid talent, maybe it's, whatever, I don't know the deficiencies that the Packers have right now, but fill the gaps with 2 or 3 solid players, 2 or 3 more first-round picks. That's the kind of haul you can get for Aaron Rodgers. You could get a king's ransom for Aaron Rodgers in a trade right now. I think you do that, you start Jordan Love, and you just know that the next 2 seasons are going to be worse than they would be had Aaron Rodgers stuck around. Maybe you get lucky and he's like Patrick Mahomes and you're instantly better. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. I think that's what you do, though, if you're the Packers. I just do. Because now it's so hard to recover from that, too. Like, it's so awkward now. It's like a couple who's just had this horrendous fight and they hate each other and they've said all these awful things and they've moved out and all this stuff. Like, yeah, you can patch things up, but when it's public, too, like it's all out there for everybody to see. All your neighbors saw, you involved all your family members, and your neighbors, friends, everybody knows. And I don't know, it's just awkward to come back now, It's always kind of going to be lingering there. Anyway, that's my take on that. Last thing, Space Jam is out tonight. It's not getting good ratings or reviews. It does look like Michael Jordan makes an appearance, or at least his cartoon. I don't know what the rights were on that. I don't know if his voice is in it. I don't know how much he's getting paid. But it looks like from some trailers I saw that LeBron and MJ kind of team up in Space Jam. So I'm going to go see it. Seems kind of fun. Guys, have a great weekend. That's all the time I have for today. Game 5 tomorrow. I'm so stoked. I am out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out stbsportstake.com. Simply the best in sports.
'Cause we are warriors.